live from Winchester, Wisconsin, where it is
City Lights.
City Lights. Okay, well, I'm thinking it's more like steamy.
It's hot.
Steamy,
Muggy,
yeah.
humid. Last week was cold. Today it is hot. Tomorrow it will be 60 degrees. So don't figure it out. That is the reality of Wisconsin. Good morning, Frank. What's the temperature up in Ontario? What's up, Frank?
Frank.
Is the machine running? Tell us what you're up to while we wait for people to jump on here. Give us an update. Hi. Minnesota.
All right.
Virginia. We got Minnesota, Virginia. We got Canada. All sorts of places.
Yeah. We're international.
Yeah, we got some fun stuff this week. We got some quilts we're going to show off. We've been doing a lot of quilting, a lot of training for people that are joining our Q Series family. So we've been having a good time with that. People have really taken advantage of the 2-cent modern meander. And we got a couple examples that we're going to show today of what that looks like. I think it's a great deal. And that's going to continue for the rest of this month. And then maybe we might slow it down a little bit or switch to something else. You never know. You never know. Good morning, everybody. This is great. We got a bunch of people. Look, the chat is
popping on.
So I'll take the second to just say, as I always do, we want this to be interactive. We love to see comments in the chat. We love to answer questions or hear what you guys are thinking. It makes it a lot more fun and gives us topics to kind of talk about. So don't be shy. If you have something, if you have a question, go ahead and type it out in the chat. We love to answer questions, right? Right. So while people are jumping on here, I'm going to do our announcements. Just a reminder, for the month of June, it is the summer savings event through Bernina. So they have this tiered savings, and they have some really, really great deals. Essentially, it's a certain amount off per every amount you spend. So it goes all the way up to if you spend $10,000. So if you get like a 790 Pro or anything above that, you're getting $1,000 off certain Q series, things like that. But even if you spend $2,000, you get $200 off. So, and then there's a tier in between those. Also, I'll take a second to remind everybody that if you're not local and you don't have a place that you visit to buy Bernina stuff, you can go on to the Bernina website and you can select us as your dealer, and they will drop ship it to you. So we really appreciate that. Yeah, we had a couple people do that. So any corporate promotions, anything that Bernina sells, they don't sell everything on the website, but anything that they do sell, you can add to a cart. And then on checkout, you can select dealer, and then basically they credit our account and then handle the shipping. It's a really great thing that they offer.
For everybody.
Everybody. So again, if you want to support us, that's one way. Another way, of course, is to like and subscribe. So we've been doing that now. We've been bringing that up.
Yes.
We're supposed to do. So right now, everybody like it. Just like it. Just takes 2 seconds. We appreciate it. That means that there should be a little thumbs up, right? Is that what it is on YouTube? So go and touch that. And then is there a bell for notifications? I hear people say that.
If they want
notifications. Yeah.
That way. When we do anything new, they are notified.
Yeah. So that way, in case you forget, I know that doesn't happen. Everybody is just sitting there like this at 10:30.
Tuesday.
Yeah, Tuesday, 10 in the morning. They're just like sitting at the screen, hitting refresh.
Woo.
No, but you can get notifications when we come on. So
yeah.
All right. So we went through summer savings. Barb, did you want to talk? Because we got some quilts we're going to show off, including the amazing masterpiece, if I do say so myself, that we have behind us here. That is just amazing. I'm super proud.
Beautiful.
We had a lady who visited us in the retreat center. It was maybe a few months ago now, but she was working on this top, and I helped her pick out the backing, which we'll show when we get into the quilt show. But she wanted to do a dense orange peel on double batting, and it turned out amazing.
Gorgeous.
It turned out amazing. So we have some great stuff to show. Real dense orange peel there. So we got some dense stuff. We got some 2-cent modern meander to show off, And then we even got a couple miniatures. So we got quilts to show that cover the entire spectrum.
Wow. Yeah, cool.
So before we get to that, and hopefully some questions, because people are going to be asking questions, Barb, what are you working on? What's going on here?
All right. Well, I decided I would try an in the hoop project with the giant hoop on the 990. And this is what I made. It's a little zipper pouch that has a zipper, zip, lined. And this is only the large. I could have done the jumbo on my giant hoop, but it's all done in the hoop, zipper and everything. Easy peasy. The instructions, this is the Kimberbell, and Kimberbell has really good instructions. So this I did in my giant hoop. And right now I'm working on quilting in the giant hoop. Downstairs, I took a picture of some of it, but the other thing I wanted to talk about was invisible machine applique, because I am going to be in Jen Kingwell's class in August, and I'm going to be working on this quilt, and it's called Burrows and Bows, okay? And Jen does a lot of handwork. So what I did for the class is done with hand applique. But I want to show you a different way that can be easier, and that's invisible applique. So this one is done the traditional hand applique method. All right, this is what I'm working on. And it's just,
Is that like needle turn? They call that needle turn?
no, the little circles are done with a little piece of mylar, and you take little tiny stitches around the fabric, pull it around that little mylar and press it. So you have a nice distinct edge. All right. So there's 4 of those, the 4 corners. And let me tell you, there's a lot of work in this one. But if I wanted to, I could have done machine invisible applique. Did you get the picture I sent? Okay. All right. So what it is this is stitch number 3 on most every Bernina. And it's a stitch, stitch, and then a zigzag. And as you can see, it is pretty invisible. So there's different ways of doing handwork versus machine work, because I know a lot of you would love to be able to do this, but your hands don't want to do this. So you have an option to use your machine and do machine invisible applique. Another sweet. Yes. Yeah. And what I have in the giant hoop right now is a quilt, and I'm doing some quilting on that. So you'll see that in a week or 2.
Yeah, the 990 is awesome. We actually had sold
it.
one, or actually a couple, fairly recently. And every time I take the time to really think about what that thing can do, because it's an expensive machine. I think the price just went up again. I think it's like $22,000. It's an expensive machine,
but
right?
It does everything.
When you think about the idea that it runs the BQM files,
yes,
and you have that huge hoop, I mean, it's not going to be able to keep up with the Q-matic and the Q24 for edge to edge. But if you are just doing custom, if you're doing block by block and you're just rehooping really quick, and you can drag those files and scan the actual quilt, so you're not just working on like a blank grid, you're working on, because I saw when I walked in.
Yeah, I scanned it.
If it replaces someone's Q20 sit down and allows them, it gives them the ability to do computerized quilting versus hand quilting, and it does what a 790 Pro does, and then
Mhm.
of course just regular sewing. I mean, it could be someone's only machine.
Yeah.
You might want a serge or two,
I got
But-
one
but yeah,
and a BO8.
yeah. Well, you're special.
She's sponsored.
She's
Fun.
sponsored. Yeah. So we have any
Yeah.
questions in here?
Yeah.
What do we got? Don't be shy now.
What?
Yeah, so we did the loading and designing, and then we did the realigning the safe area.
Mhm.
And those honestly, like, so when we do our training, that's essentially, those two videos are like 90% of what we do, and then it's just the repetitiveness, right? Of because we specialize in the edge to edge, and then I feel like if you learn how to do the edge to edge, everything else is kind of like, adding a few things to it or whatever. But that gives you like
The
a strong basic,
Yeah.
fundamentals of it, because everything you can do overall, you can do very simply in a block, right? And you're kind of using the same tools more or less. There's some cool things. But yeah, we'd love to do that. Like, for example, I think that we wouldn't have to do such long videos. I think we could do simple few-minute videos on like thread break recovery.
Mhm.
And then like I was playing around with some of the custom features for one of the ladies who had just purchased one, was interested in edge to edge, but she also wanted to use it as like the computerized custom or semi-custom, whatever.
Mhm.
And I was able to show like the masking feature, which is basically like, imagine if you had a heavy stipple and then you have a wool applique in there, and it's using the sew head to mark a bunch of points and basically crop out that wool applique, so you don't have to do edge to edge. You don't have to go over the wool applique.
Mhm.
And I think not too long ago, if people remember on here, I did that fall pillow for my
Yeah,
mom, and I
yeah.
used that, and it worked really, really good.
Yeah.
Honestly, you could do custom really, really easy with the Q-matic, and I think it'd be a lot of fun. The challenge becomes when you take a design that's programmed to do a certain pattern, and then you just cut things out. You end up having a lot of either tie-offs or jump stitches, however you want to run the program, and there's just a lot of cleanup.
Yeah.
Which is not something I'm interested in doing, right? Like, what you'd really want to do if it was like for a show is you'd want to bury all those tags, and
Yes.
it'd be a lot of work. You don't necessarily want knots every time but so videos like that where we just show how to stick a feather in a border, and there's a what is it? Is it Morph? I'm trying to think. I think it might be Morph. I can picture the button. It looks similar, like the multi-point placement button on the
Mhm.
790.
Yeah.
There's that in the Q-matic, and what you do is you basically take the sew head and you mark, like, let's say you wanted to do a border and you wanted to stick a feather in the border, like a custom border, but not everything is perfect, right? So if it was perfect, you could just do like a perfect rectangle. But with this, you can just mark points, and then if there's some imperfections or if it's not loaded completely straight, the machine will basically stick that feather, that row of feathers, into that imperfect shape. And obviously you want to pick certain things that make your life easy, and certain things will look good and certain things won't. But there's some really cool features that we could do short videos on that I think would be cool if people are interested in that. But in all honesty, like, those two videos kind of cover like,
I think we should do like a basic design one,
okay,
and then like a basic like trimming one. How to trim your quilt inside your safe area, outside
isn't
your
that in
quilt
the
top.
designing though? In the video we did it.
Yeah, but I think just a trimming video
Okay.
with the sew head to use.
So like shorts.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might be a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we like
Because
doing
I
that
still
stuff.
see people run into issues with not using the sew head
Mhm.
to trim inside the safe area.
Like, even just like a video that's like common
Yeah.
things. Like, what are the most things people call and they say this is not working? And
Right.
Like,
Like
one
I'll
of-
get like people be like, I don't know what's going on. And they'll send me a picture of their screen, their quilt on their screen, and I'll be like, yeah, make sure you're trimmed inside your safe
It's
area.
not,
They're like,
right?
I
And
am,
it's
and I'll
not.
like zoom in, right?
Right.
you know. And sure enough, it's just a little bit above on the top.
Or
Right?
like catastrophe avoidance
Yeah,
practices,
there you go.
like how to avoid a catastrophic
Like-
failure.
Oh,
And the number one catastrophic failure right off the top of my head is if you design your safe area, which is the area in which the machine thinks it's safe to operate, and you're doing, let's say, like a quilt like this with double batting, and let's say you're doing a bunch of it in a single day. So when you started, your safe area, there was no quilt rolled up, right? But all of a sudden you're 3/4 of the way done, and that bar is this fat, right? And now the coordinates you gave the Qmatic robot that you said this is the area in which this machine can operate safely, that's no longer true, because that quilt, if it tries to get all the way back there, it's running into the bar. Sorry. Yeah. So what can happen, the most catastrophic thing that can happen, is that the machine tries to get somewhere it thinks it can get, but it can't. And what happens is one of the belts slip. Usually it's the Y belt, right? The one that goes up and down. That's the Y. The X is this way, right, Jake? It's been a while since I've done algebra. But anyway,
yeah,
it tries to get there. It can't. It trips. But the machine doesn't stop running. Only now, when the Y input is coming through the motors to the machine, the belt isn't actually moving the machine. So what the machine is doing is just doing the X over and over and over again. And if you're not like right there, by the time it goes one way, back over itself in the exact same line, and by 3 times, it's going to be hard to pick out. By 4 times, you got a hole and you damage the fabric. So that's like the worst thing you can do. And the way we can avoid that is by, instead of setting your safe area like as big as you possibly can, just artificially limit your size a little bit, and that'll give you some clearance built in. And then also, you don't want to get greedy, is what we call it, when you're doing your advance. And obviously you want to do as much as you can, but if you really try to fit like that 3rd row that you can barely fit when maybe 2 would be comfortable, that's when you can, so a video like that. Yeah. Is that what you want?
What happens when you make your back too small?
Yeah, well, then there's obviously dumb
that's-
things.
Yeah,
There's dumb things that shouldn't happen.
yeah.
That
But have.
yeah, that do when you
Yeah.
So what else we got here? Your 735 systems. So I think you're talking about the firmware on a 735, just like any of the machines, and usually that doesn't happen very often. It's like once in a while this is more.
If you are the original owner of your machine and it's registered to you and your email's in their system, they will email you and let you know that a software update is available for your machine. Or you can go right on Bernina.com/support, search for your machine and see if there is an updated firmware. You can also check on your machine. You just go into your settings and it's right there. You can just check the version of the software that you have and then compare it to the one online. And then call me if you need to update it, and I'll walk it through it.
Yeah.
It's very simple.
He was kind enough to do that one Thursday evening while he's cooking dinner for his kids, and I'm at a retreat and helping somebody with their machine. So, yeah, it's usually pretty simple, but sometimes.
And usually the updates, they come more fast and furious for new products. So like the 990 had several updates because it was so new, bugs that they
I don't think I've
had to
updated
fix.
anything.
Like a 790 Pro, I know there was one, but like if you have like a 475, there's probably not. They got that ironed out. That product's been out for a while.
Yeah.
That's not like a common deal. But like you said, you can check that by just checking your version and then checking it against what the most recent is on the website. Okay, what's last here? I see we got one more here. Yeah. So that's very, very common, especially with cotton thread. Usually what I do, so this is my process. So if we get a thread break that's a top thread break where it shreds at the needle and then it kind of, where the thread stops is usually the needle take-up bar. That's where it kind of kicks back to and you have to constantly rethread it. I do a few things. The first thing we always do, okay, is to make sure our machine is clean. I know it's redundant, but it's what you got to do, and sometimes this honestly fixes it. You rethread the machine, you make sure it's clean, and you make sure it's not been like a long time since you oiled it. So Like how it would work for me is, let's say I'm doing let's say I'm basting a quilt and I get a top thread break, just like you did. Shoot. What I might do is I might just rethread it real quick and keep going. But if I get another one, I stop and I don't care. I change the needle, I brush it out, I clean it, I make sure it's good to go. Okay. If that doesn't fix it, if I get another one, then I start lowering my top tension, because normally what we found with certain threads, especially when we're getting thread breaks on the top, if our bobbin is, because that's our constant, right? That should always be at 220 if you have a Bernina on the little toa gauge. If you double check that and that's not it, and then you did the rethreading and the oiling and the changing of the needle and all that, then start working your top tension down. And 99.9% of times, as soon as you start lowering that tension, so if I was at 4, by the time I go to 3.5 or 3, normally it's stitching much better. And that's my process, and usually that solves it. And then if that doesn't solve it, I might take a look at that top thread that you're using and make sure it's not old.
Yeah, the actual thread.
Sometimes you just get a bump. Even with Aurifil, I feel like sometimes we just get a spool and it just
doesn't
maybe
work
it's
well.
old. Maybe it was stored in the sunlight, direct sunlight for 5 years, you know?
Yeah.
So that's our process. Hopefully that helps you. But that's not uncommon. You know, usually these things, what people worry about is that there's something wrong with the machine. And I'll say that, like, most of the time, there's not a timing issue or anything like that. Most of the time it's TNT, thread needle tension. And then I would, part of that tension is usually lowering the top tension if that's where you're getting those thread breaks. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Well, we start talking about some quilts. Let's get some more questions going in the chat. I like this. This is fun. So let's talk about the one that we had just kind of hinted to right away, because this thing's amazing.
Gorgeous.
Yep. And this is Alyssa's quilt. And she, like I said, she was at the retreat house and she was finishing the top, I believe. And we picked out this backing that I'm going to show. And you want to show the backing? Because it's amazing. We picked out this quilt. Is massive. I love this thing. This thing probably weighs like 80 pounds, I feel like. Was it heavy?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I'm going to scoot this chair.
Yeah, I'll stand up here. But so this has got this beautiful cream background here and beautiful taupe piecing. And we picked out one of my mom's, that's Farmhouse, right? I forget which one, but it's this beautiful matching flannel. And we use the, I believe we use 2730 or 2370. That taupe in the bobbin. But this is just amazing. And this is obviously what's so popular and everything, Jake, I think is kind of over the whole modern farmhouse feel. I feel like when I was talking about gray floors, gray wood floor. But anyways, this is so popular right now, the sort of modern farmhouse look. And this is just amazing. And she wanted double batting and dense.
And she got it. It's
dense.
Gorgeous.
Yeah. And honestly, it's kind of funny because I had texted her a couple times because I had loaded it and I stared at it for 2 days because I knew it was going to be a big undertaking. And there was some weirdness in the borders, I'm like, the quilt seemed very straight. She's a really great piecer, and for some reason, just the way it was loaded made me a little bit nervous. And so I talked to her and I kind of hemmed and hawed for like 2 days. I reloaded it the top twice. I took off the double batting once. And, I just thought about it. I'm like, you know what? We're just going to take a chance. Right.
And look at it now.
Yeah. And it just behaved very, very well. I was just a little worried. Some people might know what I'm talking about when you have these bigger quilts and double batting. And it wasn't square, but both of the borders, when it came down, because I always put my top on, I never free float my tops. I put them on the top bar, and it just was a little bit loose. And I'm like, oh man, because if we do, we'll do those next. If we do a large quilt and you want to do a small orange peel, things have got to be good.
Pretty dang on point.
Yes. Because if you get halfway through this thing and that quilt starts moving, It's very hard because think about it, orange peel is all these circles that are interlocking and they have to line up perfectly for every advance. And if they don't, it's very obvious. And if you end up being even a 1/4 inch off when you're doing an orange peel, I think this orange peel is like a 2-inch orange peel or
Yeah.
less.
Looks about 2 inches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty
That's
small.
pretty small.
If it starts
For a
moving,
large quilt, yeah.
it's not good. And this ended up literally perfect. So I had no issues with it.
And which orange peel is that? No fuss?
This is
or-
not
No.
no fuss.
This is the one that goes back over
Yep.
itself.
So we
right?
had to do, because I needed to get the density, the no fuss is programmed at 93 inches, right?
It's 1/8 or
However it wasn't going to give me the
Yeah.
density I wanted. So they need to program a no fuss that's longer so I can get it small for larger quilts. So I had to use the original orange peel, which is fine. It looks great. But
And I think it probably is good that you did that because of the double batting.
yeah, maybe.
You know,
Yep.
that helps to make everything pop.
Yeah, but we love doing projects like this. This is one of those ones where, I mean, I was halfway through it and I realized how it was going to turn out, and I just was thrilled because it's really, really neat. So I know I showed it.
Do you know
to
the size
Alyssa.
on it?
Yeah, so this one, and I can tell you a little bit, I won't go into the 100% the details of this guy, but we got 107 by 96. The quilting on this one is a 4 cent design. Could maybe be a little bit more, but we'll stick with the 4 cent there. And then double batting, which adds up. So this one's going to be right around $500 all said and done, and I think it's worth all of
Oh,
that.
yeah. Yeah.
So very proud of how that one turned out. So let's move on here. I know she actually absolutely loved it. So
Yeah,
I'm excited
it's-
for her. I'm excited for her because I could tell she was disappointed when I started being like, well, I don't know if we should,
Yeah.
But then I'm like, you know what? Let's just go for it.
Yeah.
And it worked out great. All right, what do we got next, Jake? We got Mary Jane Price, one of our oldest customer, not oldest in age, but like from the beginning, years ago. I feel like she's been sending us stuff, and we got some really cool things to show. So these ones are more of the. She sent us 3, and these are in the 50 to 40 or 50 by 40 range. And this first one we did that looks like the honeycomb.
Yeah, honeycomb.
Yeah, it's like the honeycomb version of modern meander.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's very similar to the modern meander, which we love. But instead of the sort of squares on point or diamonds, whatever you want to call it, it's honeycomb.
What if we did, instead of modern meander May, we did honeycomb Julio?
Honeycomb Julio?
Yeah.
Julio.
Isn't that June or July?
I don't know, man. It's been a while.
That'd be
since I did
sweet.
Julio.
2 cent design, 15
Yeah.
inches, ideas.
Honeycomb Julio. Sounds like the name of a band or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this one is amazing. The piecing is amazing.
We know what this
love
pattern's
it.
called? Isn't it like a friendship star or something like that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Friendship Star.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, the back is awesome too.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
really
we
cool.
picked out the back for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so we
it's
picked out
really
this.
pretty.
We had this. So for those of you who don't know, if you don't have backing fabric and you were going to buy it from us anyways, instead of paying the shipping just to do a seam, you can pay me to do the seam, and I'll pick out a backing for you. So
Yeah.
if you don't have backing, no worries. You can still send your quilt tops in. It's something that we started during COVID when people couldn't leave the house and
Yeah.
we were shipping everything.
Well, it just
so,
doesn't make sense to ship it and then receive it back and then ship it back and all that stuff.
Yep. Beautiful. All right. All right. What's next, Jake? Another one, the second one from her.
Oh, this is pretty. Pretty, pretty.
Let's see here.
You have a orange peel.
Orange peel. Oh, yeah. I remember this one.
Oh,
We did this one. Yep.
pretty, pretty.
So this is the No Fuss orange peel, which is a different orange peel. And I think this turned out really, really pretty. You just can't go
Yeah.
wrong with the orange peel on traditional things like the spools
Yeah, the
and
spools.
baskets
Yeah.
and samplers and
Mhm.
all that sort of stuff. I love orange peel. This is invisible. Oh, I should have mentioned too, this other one is invisible on the top. Yep, this first, the big one.
The big one.
Yep. So very, very nice.
Pretty feminine.
Awesome.
Perfect. And the last one for her.
This one is Modern Meander.
Good old Modern Meander.
This one's beautiful.
Gotta have it.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty. That is pretty. These traditional patterns are so pretty, so basic, but they're very pretty. And that quilting just enhances that traditional pattern. That's really pretty.
So once again, invisible thread. We love that. That's from Aurifil.
Pretty.
And the back is beautiful as well.
Yeah.
Very nice.
All right, you got the other two?
Yep. So now we're going to talk about we have a couple that that use the 2-cent Modern Meander May special, which has been extended. And I think these look really great. So let's show off these. All right. So the first one, I think these are actually both for Christine Nelson. These are some big ones. I think these are those round the world variations here. Yes. Okay. All right, Jake.
Bye, Bob.
Bye, Barb. See you
you
later.
later.
Yeah, so this is like this. I think they call it the round the world.
Trip around the world.
Trip around the world.
Wow, look at it.
Pretty
on
cool,
camera.
right?
It looks wild.
Looks good on the camera, too.
Yeah.
Back's nice.
Yes.
Nice tension.
Yeah, so this is that 15-inch Modern Meander, and I think it really actually looks great on some of these bigger quilts like this. I think, honestly, even if it wasn't this special, this is not a bad choice, right?
It's definitely less dense than that Modern Meander we just showed, but it still has that overall coverage.
Yep.
Which is really nice.
Yeah, Modern Meander, like by its nature, just gives a nice, even density, even when you stretch those rows out. So if you're like a new quilter,
What'd you use on the back?
let's see here, cotton,
Want to show off?
just a gray, yeah. And this looks like a grunge that she, I
Yep.
think this is her
Yep.
back. So the camera might not pick up, it's dark, but
Oh yeah.
what was I saying? Oh, if you're like a new quilter and you're not ready to do like a small orange peel yet because you're kind of working on those fundamentals of realignment and you don't want to mess things up, this 15-inch Modern Meander looks really great. I'll just take this, I guess. We'll fold it up. Looks really great, and you only have to do one row per advance.
Stitches out really quick.
And it stitches out really nice. So you don't have to worry about linking a bunch of rows and alternating rows.
Mhm.
Usually it's something that I recommend people buy when they first get their computer. Ooh, this you'll be able to see that Modern Meander a little bit better here. Ooh, but here's another.
Dunked it in the coffee.
Yeah, let's not do that.
Yeah, really.
This is another like trip around the world style. Wow.
Whoa. Yeah.
A little brighter.
These are big quilts.
Yeah, these are big.
Yeah.
That looks wild in the camera.
Yeah.
Yeah, where's the, did you have the sheet?
You had it.
Yeah, where did that sheet go? Because I
Oh.
want to talk about pricing on some of these because it ends up being like
Is that
very,
underneath right there?
Yeah, it's underneath.
yeah, let's talk about this a little bit because it ends up being pretty reasonable for the size quilting. Yeah, so one of these was 98 by 89 and it ended up being $174.
Wow.
The other one
That's reasonable.
was 104 by 92 and it ends up being $191.
Wow.
So she got, for mid 300, $360 here, she got 2 large quilts finished and they look great.
Yeah.
They look great.
Nice.
Should we show the back off?
Yeah, just
Yeah.
tip over.
Yeah,
the
let's just
front.
tip it over here.
Ah, yes. Well, we don't need a quilt today.
There you go. You can see it a little better here.
Beautiful.
But again, this is the 15-inch modern meander. All right, let's take this and I'll fold this up.
Is that it for quilts?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
All right. Questions, comments?
Yeah, so now would be the time to ask questions, but that shows a little bit of everything. So we have a, really, really great masterpiece type quilt. We have some smaller kind of lap size quilts. We even had a couple of the big 2-cent modern meander that really is a good, and they all look great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They all look great.
It looks
So-
finished.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So what do we got here for questions? So usually what we do is, edge to edge is not custom, right? So you can't, you might go crazy trying to, if you want things to land in a certain spot, but a few easy things that we do is we will set so this is the process and what you need to do to be able to do it, especially with the Q-matic. And I'm sure it's similar with other programs, but what you want to do is you want to over design. So like, let's say you have a quilt that's 60 by 60, when you design your row and then your block of quilting by multiplying it down, design it much bigger than you need, because then you can move the entire block of quilting over your quilt, and when you trim, you still have enough. So if you needed to move it 4 or 5 inches this way or that way to make a point hit a certain point on the quilt, you have that space. So you over design it, and then what I do is I take my machine and I'll find the middle of the actual quilt right in real life, and I'll put my sew head right there, and then I'll drag my point or my quilting design over it. And like, if it's like, imagine it's like a Baptist fan where you have like a point, so I will make sure that the point of those fans run right down the middle of the quilt. That would be like an example of how we would do that. But the other thing is that it looks, I think a lot of times it looks like we did something that we really didn't do, in that, like, like modern meander always looks like we did something like so perfect but really it just looks great because of all the angles, and it looks like a lot of things were intentional. That, I mean, we like to do our best to line things up and have things even, but honestly, a lot of that is like an optical, it's just your eye likes it.
Yeah, and that's even when you design like an orange peel this small with this orange peel, like it nests it perfectly for you when you drop your rows down, so you don't have to adjust like the in-between height of your rows like you would on a modern meander or something like that. But yeah, you might have to zoom in and make everything bigger so you can see where they nest, because sometimes, like Baptist fan, if you nest it a little too close, your rows will intersect, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So it's just taking that extra time and
And zooming in.
changing your views too, because
Yeah.
there's a needle view and then there's center view and things like that that'll help
Yeah.
you design. And
Yeah, if you have Q-matic, you got to know when to switch from normal view to needle center, and both of them are important. And it's very easy to know when you need to switch, because if you're trying to do something and you're frustrated with your ability to see what you're trying to do, odds are what you need to do is switch. So for example, if I'm like zoomed in on the needle and I'm trying to design the overall design and I don't like it, well, I'll go to view, and sure enough, normal view, and now all of a sudden I can center it, and it's very good for designing. If I'm trying to trim and do some very close up work, but I got this big bird's eye view, then I know it's time to change that. Or if I'm trying to find where my needle is, but I'm using those sliders to try to find it, well, no, just go to needle center, and the screen just centers itself on where the needle is. So it's really easy. If your life is difficult, change your views. Words to live by.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah,
Quote
I like
that.
that.
Write that down.
Yeah, write that down.
Life is difficult. Change your
like and
views.
subscribe.
Like and subscribe. All right, is that it? One more? Well, it all depends on where you live. I mean, if you live locally by, like, in Minnesota or if you're in Michigan versus sending it from California, it's going to be different. But I don't think it's not anything crazy. Usually it's $16
That's exactly what I was thinking.
$26 for a big one. I mean, this one she's coming to pick up, but I was joking with her saying when we mail it out, the thing's going to be an 80-pound package, but she's going to come get this one. But yeah, it's not as much as you'd think. And then to put insurance on things, it's also not as expensive. So usually it's like for every $5, it's like $500 of insurance you can put on there, which honestly, we just do that not because we want to replace the value of all that time and work, which we don't want to do, but it just seems like when you insure things, they keep a better, and you can even do it where you do signature required, right? So then there's no chance of anyone leaving anything. It's just a solid chain of custody. So there's things that you can do. It costs a little bit more, but it might be worth it.
And you can just send us the top too. We have backing, we have batting, we have all of that. So to keep that cost as low as you know.
How can you afford not to send us a quilt? That's the real
Really? Yeah.
You know what I mean? Can you afford not to have this done? All right. If we don't have any other questions, I think that's about it. Do we have some winners? Do we have some people? Let's see here.
Winners. I love prizes.
All right. All right. Who's first?
Me, Patricia Newkirk. You are a winner.
You win.
Contact Heidi to claim your prize.
I have Pamela Doors. Pamela Doors.
And last but not least, we have Judy Hoffman.
Okay.
You win.
Yay.
Golden ticket.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining us this morning. Do we have anything else?
Happy Father's Day.
Yep. Happy Father's Day.
All those dads out there.
Yeah.
You know who you are.
There's probably a ton of those watching right now.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sure. Just saying.
Hey.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Other than that,
Always remember, clean and oil your Bernina.